Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Hope you guys are all having a very blessed Wednesday so far. So let me give you guys a little bit of update what's going on today. This is the boxing show. I'll be going back live at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock with Josh Jefferson for a basketball show. So if you guys want to tune into that, that will be in about, 43 minutes. So I'm just going to get a quick boxing show in there real quickly, and then we'll hop into the basketball show in about 40 minutes. But on this boxing show, originally planned, Danny Quartermine was going to be on the show today. He had to postpone. We're going to get that interview in now on Monday. So that'll be Monday at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Danny Quartermine will be on the show at that point in time. Now, today's show for boxing will only be in regards to getting up to some boxing news that's come out in the past 24 hours. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into that. But before that, if you guys have any things you guys want me to address or talk about in the chat today, make sure to go put that in the comment section or the chat, and I'll make sure to address that as I go throughout today's show. It won't be a long one because as I said, I will be going live at the top of the hour for a basketball show with Josh Jefferson. So make sure to tune into that if you guys are basketball fans as well. But let's hop into boxing news now. There were some reports going around recently in regards to Jaron Ennis and Terence Bud Crawford. And essentially, when Terence Bud Crawford finished up his fight with Canelo Alvarez in September, it's going to be an interesting predicament. He's going to have about 5 days to choose between which weight class he's going to keep his belts at, hypothetically speaking, if he beats Canelo Alvarez. Now, obviously, that's a big if, but if he were to beat Canelo Alvarez, let's just call it what it is, he is now undisputed champion at 168, while still holding the belt at 154. So he's going to be put into an interesting position. Do you keep the 168 belts and continue yourself at super middleweight, or do you drop yourself down to 154 again and you continue your reign there? Now, he could also just retire and move on from boxing. That's very much an option as well for Terence Bud Crawford. But what I really want to address on today's show is this. We've been having rumors of wanting a Jaron Ennis versus Terence Bud Crawford fight for roughly 18 to 24 months now. And as Boots has continued to develop and grow his name and brand, that fight's only become hypothetically bigger. But we're in an interesting situation now. Is that fight ever going to happen? Their careers will collide because if Terence Bud Crawford decides to keep his 154 belt, Boots Ennis will be knocking on the door waiting for that opportunity then. WBA would then have to strip Terence Bud Crawford, who does not decide to keep the belt, keeps 168 or retires. And so then Boots Ennis would become champion for the WBA at 154. Now, that's a lot of moving pieces there. But the big question I want to address right now is this. Will we ever see Terence Bud Crawford fight Jaron Ennis? If I were to give you my honest answer there, I would say no. I would love to see that fight. I think it would be a good fight. Now, I think Terence Bud Crawford will win that fight, but I would like to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Here's what I believe is going to happen for Terence Bud Crawford. This is a man who has accomplished great things in boxing. Already has the Hall of Fame on locks. He's going to be one of the best, if not the best, of this generation. All those things are already set for himself. He wants one big challenge. That's Canelo Alvarez. Whether he wins, loses, or draws in that fight, I believe that very likely could be the final time that we see Bud Crawford in the ring. Now, could there be a rematch with Canelo or some other big fight? Who knows what happens. But in terms of just having an ordinary fight to defend your belt, I don't necessarily see that happening. And while Boots Ennis is somebody that boxing fans know and love, and he's a rising superstar in the sport, Boots Ennis does not necessarily have that pedigree yet to be someone that Terence Bud Crawford would say, you know what, I must have that fight on my resume before I retire. You could make a case for it. It would be a good name on his resume, and it would look a lot better in the future, but it would be a fight that right now, at this moment in time, I don't think it would intrigue Bud Crawford from a financial or a resume standpoint today. If Boots was able to go out there, become the WBA or a world champion at 154, and then, maybe defend his belt once or twice, that could make that fight a lot more appealing. But that would put us at about 12 to 16 months out from now. And I don't feel like that's a situation or a time span where Bud Crawford will still be fighting. I could be wrong, but that's just the way I see it right now. But to expand upon that real quickly, let's go into depth on, hypothetically speaking, what if these two guys were to match up? I know one thing. I know that we saw Bud Crawford go out there, and I think he did a lot better than a lot of people give him credit for at 154. But still, he did move up. It was not a dominant Bud Crawford showing overall in terms of what we're used to him doing at 147. And for Boots, we've never even seen him fight at 154. I think he's going to move into his weight very easily at 154. But still, It's to be determined at this moment in time. But if I were to look at that fight, if it were to happen today, I would have to side on the side of Terence Crawford being Jaron Boots Ennis. I like Jaron Boots Ennis. I think, as I said, he's a rising star in the sport. I think he's going to be a superstar in boxing. But when you talk about Bud Crawford, he's much more overall. I'd say he's much more skilled than Boots is. Boots is at his best when he has a guy that's much better than him in the ring, or a guy that's he's excited to go out there and fight. That would obviously get him to produce at his highest level possible. But still, when I see those two guys step in the ring, I see Bud Crawford come out emerging victorious. I don't see a pathway for Boots Ennis necessarily winning in that fight. I feel like Bud just has the overall defense, has the skill set, pretty much has just about everything on Boots Ennis right now. If this fight were to happen, like I said, 12, 18 months, whatever the case may be, a completely different story could be told there, without a shadow of a doubt. But at this moment in time, I do have Boots losing that fight to Terence Bud Crawford. All right, I addressed this yesterday on the show, but I want to expand on what I discussed yesterday in this regards. The news was this, that conversations are already happening for Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao 2 to occur if Manny wins this Saturday. Okay. Let's just state this very quickly. If you're Mario Barrios, and you should already go out there and get the KO, but this should light a fire underneath you saying, you know what, you need to go out there and get that KO. Because if you go to the points, you're going to be robbed. If there is rumors of a potential Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather 2 fight to go down, that would do massive numbers. Now, the rumors have said it could be $1 billion fight. I do not agree with that at all. Only way you reach those type of numbers would be if Netflix picks it up and so on and so forth. But the billion's exaggerated. But still, this is a massive, massive money fight. So if you're Mario Barrios, you know everybody involved in this scene is going to want to make that fight happen. Your job is to go out there and KO Manny Pacquiao. I don't want Manny Pacquiao in the ring anyways. I've said that time and time again. He does not need to put himself at risk of injury, but it is what it is. If you're Mario Barrios, you have your life, your career on the line right now. You need the KO to beat Manny Pacquiao. As messed up as it is, this is boxing. He needs to get that KO. But that fight right there would be a fight that you would only see something like this happen in boxing. Likely, this fight would not happen until later this year or start of next year. That would mean that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. would be roughly 49 years old and 48 years old, respectively. What other sport would have something along those lines fighting at the pinnacle of the sport? Nothing else compares to that. It's one of the most outlandish, wild things you could possibly put on paper. But here we are in boxing, and this is a very realistic opportunity where we could see Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao step in that ring and fight for a world championship. And so is this a legitimate possibility? Is this realistic? Yes. Does it make sense? Absolutely not. I don't see Manny Pacquiao winning the fight on Saturday either. But if Manny Pacquiao does it, I said this yesterday, he would have had the right to do whatever he wants in the ring. And a fight with Floyd Mayweather would produce massive money, and I would not fault him for taking that fight. As weird as it looks on paper, as messed up as it even is that you could say it is, that's a fight that when I look at it, I understand Manny Pacquiao and Floyd wanting it. It more so belongs as like an exhibition type fight, but we could possibly have a world championship involved there. And if it were to happen, who knows what would happen in that ring? I could give you guys my breakdown right now. Floyd Mayweather won the first fight. This is many, 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 many years after. Floyd Mayweather has fought exhibition fights, but not in a legitimate fight now in quite some time. And likewise with Manny Pacquiao, he's not won a fight in 2019. I will be able to give a much clearer explanation as to who I think would possibly win that fight after, the fight happens on Saturday and we see what Manny Pacquiao looks like. But I'll be honest here. As a true boxing fan, that I believe that Floyd Mayweather and both Manny Pacquiao have both given us more than we could ever ask for in terms of a career, entertainment, and everything. I don't want them back in the ring. They've done their job. They should have had their money. They've earned their money. Go out and be healthy. I don't want to see this fight happen. I don't want to see them step back in the ring. Let the young guys come in and step over and take over. We don't need to see this happen. We have Mario Barrios, the world champion right now. In my opinion, is probably one of the worst talent-wise champions in all boxing. He always puts on a show. He's entertaining, but he's not very good at boxing. He happens to be at 147 right now. Gives Manny Pacquiao one of the easiest shots at possibly getting a world championship. But let's just hope that Mario Barrios goes out and wins that fight on Saturday. Because seeing these two guys go out there and fight, when let's be honest, it would be a fun fight to watch, but when it's holding up a belt, it just gets very interesting. There's a lot of other fights to be happening. I feel like it just stalls the 147-pound division. It's not a fight that a lot of people want to go out there and see. Now, casuals would obviously want to go see that. But when you're talking about overall boxing fans, there's lots of better fights to go out there and make as opposed to Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. But only time will tell, because I believe that if Manny Pacquiao emerges victorious on Saturday, what's going to happen? I think those two guys will return to the ring and fight each other at 49 and 48 years old. We'll see what ends up unfolding there. The last thing I want to get into today is news that just broke a little bit ago. It is official. No more pay-per-views for RIYADH season and ring shows going forward. Turki Al-Sheikh has declared that Ring Magazine and RIYADH season boxing shows, starting with the David Benavidez-Anthony Yarde fight on November 22nd, will no longer be behind a pay-per-view paywall and will instead be part of a regular DAZN subscription. I made a tweet about this right when it came out, and I saw some people coming out and saying this. This is just what was already promised to us in the beginning. Okay, well, first of all, they said the prices were going to be lower, and the prices have relatively been low. Second of all, it doesn't change the fact of how big this is for boxing. And I'm going to go on and say this once again. How do you possibly go out there and hate on Turki Al-Sheikh? He's putting on massive fight cards. When you're talking about Ring Magazine and RIYADH season cards, these are some of the best fight cards that are put together all year long. Regardless of promotion, these are some of the best cards put together in all boxing. And we're going to have them for free. Nobody else is doing it like that right now. Nobody else is even putting together cards that even compare to what he's putting together. And secondly, these are going to be for free. All you need to do is have DAZN. You don't have to pay any extra money for as big as these fights will be. November 22nd has a chance at being one of the best boxing cards that have ever been assembled in boxing history. At least for sure within this decade or century. It's going to be for free. Nobody else is moving like Turki Al-Sheikh. Nobody else is putting these things together right now. And if you want to hate on Turki Al-Sheikh for whatever reason that might be, you probably should start changing your attitude. Because what this is going to do for boxing is massive. You have to understand that boxing as a whole has been limited and restricted in terms of its growth due to the pay-per-view era. When you are somebody that wants to go see something and grow, and let me kind of paint a picture for you guys real quick. This is how I want to phrase it. If you are in any avenue of life and you discover something new that you end up enjoying, whether that be a food, that be something, oftentimes you're put in a situation where you have the access to do so. It might be you go somewhere and you watch a TV show, somebody invites you somewhere and you see something or something, whatever the case may be. You're not just going to go out there and pay $60 to go do something you've never really done before for the most part. When it comes to boxing, this has been the problem. These things are hidden behind a pay-per-view wall, and it restricts boxing fans from wanting to go out there and watch the sport because they don't have any idea about it. They see these two guys, they've never heard of them in their entire lives. People might say it's a good fight if they even heard about the fight, and then they go and sit down and they have to go pay $60 or some outlandish number, $80, $90, whatever it is, for a pay-per-view. Nobody's doing that. You have to be a diehard boxing fan and somehow pay for somebody else or whatever the case may be for this sport to grow. And for the generation now, I'd say, it's been a massive problem with boxing. Too many people don't have access to go watch the sport. And when those issues start to arise, we've seen the hit it's had on boxing. It's no longer one of the most popular sports in America. It's not. Football, basketball, hockey, you could say baseball, all these, UFC even, I'd say, is all larger scale viewed and more talked about and bigger sport than boxing is right now. You could debate a couple of those, sure. But at the end of the day, a lot of the problem has been the restriction because of pay-per-view walls. Too many pay-per-views are out there. Way too many. And it's caused a massive issue on the large scale for boxing. With Turki Al-Sheikh saying that, you know what? Pay-per-views are now no longer going to be a thing with his cards. They're going to be over with. Now all you need is a DAZN subscription, and you have access to all these massive fights. That is going to do wonders for boxing. Because now all you have to do is pay for and have your DAZN subscription, and you now will have access to some of the best fights in all the world. You don't think that's going to help grow the sport of boxing? I think it's going to be huge. I think it will be substantially increase the viewership for boxing, and it's going to make the eyes put on boxing much more. It's going to expand drastically. This is exactly how you do it. I've talked about the Jake Paul theory. When you go on Netflix and you have the whole world able to go watch you now this is not Netflix, of course not. But when you have it free and all you need is a Netflix subscription, look how many more views are given to those fights. The numbers skyrocket. That's not a coincidence. When you have people that are able just to go tune into a big fight, they're much more likely to do so. And that's why it's critical that boxing removes itself from the pay-per-view era and gets itself into a new era where you are able to make revenue from ads, whatever case may be, but it's no longer massive pay-per-view walls. And if this is done by picked up by everybody else in the world, the sport of boxing will only grow. And that means more money in the pockets of other people. The sport will be more talked about. The brand will be more talked about. And that is huge for boxing. And so I'll say this once more. Turkey Al-Sheikh is huge for boxing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Whether you like the way he moves, whatever case may be, deal with it. At large, what he's doing for boxing is huge. And it is certainly for the better. No doubt about that. And this is once again another example of why Turkey Al-Sheikh is massive for the sport of boxing. With that being said, though, I told you guys it's going to be a very short boxing show. I don't see any more comments in the chat right now. So with that being said, I will be going off live right now, but I'll be right back live with a basketball show coming up at the top of the hour. Just 28 minutes from now, I'll be back live. So I do hope you guys all tune in for that show. You guys are not going to want to miss my interview with Joshua Jefferson. It's going to be a great interview. So I'll see you guys in about 28 minutes. May God bless you guys all. If you guys are tuning in for a boxing show, I will be live tomorrow night. I will release the time and the guest for that show probably tomorrow afternoon or about afternoon or late morning, whatever the case may be. So you guys know who's tuning on to that, who's coming on to that show and the time of it. So I'll be back live tomorrow. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. I will see you guys tomorrow for the boxing show. If you guys are tuning for basketball, I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. May God bless you guys all. Have a blessed rest of you guys Wednesday, and I'll see you guys at the top of the hour. SchuZ out.